Hello and welcome back to another episode of Track Talk. Today we are joined for the third episode in a row with the one, the only, the iPi himself. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Now, I think in the previous episode I referred to you as the Shadow Man, and we were pretty uncertain if you were even going to make another track, and then here we are, like barely 2 weeks later, and you've kind of shocked the line rider world, so to speak.
Oh, I'm glad to have done that.
Yeah, this track was really quite something. So
Thank you.
I mean, dude,
What?
like man,
Well,
when I
it's
watched that,
it's
I was
kind
just
of a
like,
long story, believe it or not. I kind of wanted to get
yeah,
into the details here.
yeah, totally.
So, so the idea for this track actually goes all the way back to 2010.
Oh
I
yeah.
have this thread on We Ride the Lines. That was basically it was started by HP. He was asking if animation was possible in Line Rider. And
Oh,
I think corkers were getting more like higher speeds were being achieved, and people were starting to see Line Rider as a potential animation tool. And I knew it was possible. I tried it in a version that Henner 18 released. It was called 8.0, and
yeah.
it was very glitchy. Was the problem? It had a select tool, and I tried to use it, but it was too glitchy. So I actually made an animation, which I uploaded here. And I think this is the first animation in Line Rider. I made it in 2010. And it's just
Oh
this
really?
bouncing square.
Oh, I didn't
And
know
you can
that.
see I made this. I made this in an old version of the game. I made this in like 6.7.
Yeah, and it's still pretty much as smooth as some of the stuff you made in this. Like it's still really, really smooth as well.
Yeah, it was every single frame. So how I made this was I used Power Menu. I used Power Menu in this track too. It's a very useful tool for window transparency. Uh,
Yeah.
what I did was I made a drawing in MS Paint. I made the outer rectangle so I could line the frame up, and that was the most tedious part was because
Mm.
you had to guess. There was no frame overlay, so you had to guess where to get it
Yeah,
to line up.
I fiddled with that a little bit myself before frame
Yeah,
overlay. It is definitely
and
interesting.
then I drew the square in MS Paint and moved it around. So that's how I made that, and it impressed people at the time. And then people were like, "Dude, you need to make a track with an animation in it." And so that honestly is what started the idea. I was just like, I need to make a track that has an animation in it. But the tools at the time, it was not going to happen. It was going to take too long. So then fast forward 5 years, and I start working on Mountain. I don't exactly remember what motivated me to start working on that, but it was I that was when I came up with the concept for the track structure that I ended up using and falling to the beats, and that was that it has a slow intro, first high speed section, then like slow them down to a slow middle section, then the fourth high speeds or the second high speed section, part 4, and then the fifth part being an animation. I actually wanted to do that in Mountain, and as you all know, in Mountain, I only made it like halfway through part 2 before I ended up giving up on it. So we have basically the structure of the track that I already have a concept of, and the animation, which I have a concept of. And so finally, I find the forum or the Discord through the email. I see the new tools that have been released, and I was like, just totally motivated at that point. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do this idea that I've had for years. I'm gonna put it into a track. And when you say I went balls to the wall with it, that's so I would wake up in the morning, I work on the track, I'd eat dinner, I work on the track again, I go to bed.
Oh,
And I
dude.
enjoyed it. I like put on a podcast, and
Oh, yeah,
I
that's what I do as
totally
well.
focused
Yeah,
on this goal.
that's
So
awesome.
there's the backstory.
That's so friggin' cool. So, yeah, I think, yeah, as we go through this track, some of the, obviously the animation is like, you kind of trumped all animation that's kind of ever been done. in this
Mm.
track, which is a sort of like a double whammy, so to speak. But you know, like you're kind of known for your manuals, and some of the insane manuals in here are just like it's like people make smooth manuals, but you know you'll still
Mhm.
see like little jitters. But with you, it's like so fixed. It's just like insane.
Yeah, I treat manuals like on a frame by frame basis, regardless of their speed. It's kind of time consuming, but I basically with the multi-lining, and I wasn't afraid of using like multipliers or anything. I didn't understand. I was like, I guess I should use them both. I don't know why it's there, but that I learned afterwards that I guess for
Yeah,
compatibility you wouldn't use them. But I don't know. I'm only playing tracks in this version, so that's fine. Uh, but yeah, the multi-lining basically and the live editing really helps me. Because I had to relearn how to do this in this version because the last time I did manuals was in 3.4.x.
yeah.
So the live editing was super helpful. Uh, I did want to say that the animation was inspired by a video game. You know, Cuphead.
I do, and that was actually something I was going to ask because it kind of when I saw the gloves and everything, it kind of reminded me of it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not like an animator, but I looked up a tutorial on how to draw gloved hands, and like I picked the simplest ones, and I really like the animation style of that game. So I kind of wanted to do something cartoony with the the visuals here. But
Yeah,
here's a little fun fact: this string here, because of the select tool, the way it ends up working is, I think this is just one. Yeah, you can actually if you break apart the string, then you can just rotate each individual line segment, and it results in like the string staying the same length. So you can like get a bending, moving effect without changing the length of it.
wow, that's like super insane. So yeah, back to your animation. Like one of the things I noticed is even when you slow it down for us so much, it still looks like friggin' perfect. Like even in
Uh,
slow mo.
yes, the what is it? Frame overlay
Yeah,
was super helpful for this because basically I do know like if you want to like have something come in slowly, like or come in quickly and then slow down, you basically need to just gradually shorten the distance between the frames.
yeah, I see.
So when the hands pull out, which I was running out of time here, so I had to do it really quickly. You can see that the distance just gets huge when it starts out really small. So that's kind of how you make a fluid movement. And I had to
Yeah,
make sure that they were out of the frame when this part started. Which that's probably something I could talk about too is the song choice.
yeah, go for it. Because
Yeah.
that was what led me like the song choice and the whole style kind of led me to make that comment like line writer consexual because it's just like it's so like well
It's aesthetic.
yeah it's just good.
Uh, I've honestly been enjoying vaporwave unironically for like 3 years now.
Mm.
Uh, I don't know what it is. It's like the echoey synth
Oh
sax
yeah, yeah,
thing.
totally.
I I just dig the sounds, and I picked this song mainly because it had a consistent like beat to it, which ended up making it into the title. Uh, Basically, like the claps were so loud and spaced apart far enough that I could use them as markers for sync in the
Mm.
track. So I thought that was like it gave me a good like this tumbling section was basically me realizing that you could use live editing to move his contact points until he almost dies, and then I didn't know what lifelock
Yeah.
was yet. I had to figure that out on my own.
Well, you figured it out
So yeah,
pretty
I
well.
didn't use lifelock during this, and then I figured out line triggers, and I was like, oh man, I got there's so much you can do now.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty
yeah, then we
nuts.
have these high speed manuals. Oh yeah, so the song, yeah, that's basically all I got. I didn't felt like it perfectly fit the mood, but I mean it synced well. So
Hmm.
this tail manual, I got a lot of comments about, and it just happened because I'm like flicking him by the tail here,
Ah, yeah.
and his hand just flew out, and I guess I've never caught him in a tail manual while his hand flew out, and it just resulted in this weird position.
Yeah, this because like I saw that and I wondered like did you do that from the previous frames or I also speculated that it was like a butt pull or something, but I guess I can see now it's just one manual. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's just it was a fluke. I'm being completely honest. I thought it was going to sort itself out, but then I was
Yeah.
like, wait, I'm stuck in this position, and I couldn't do it later in the track, but it looks pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I think that's a new kind of manual, kind of really.
I think that I wonder if that you can do that at a lower speed because it seems like the higher speed is what's holding him in this
Yeah,
position.
yeah, it's like the kind of G-force effect.
And then I could have kept it going, but I had to sync to the music, so I just slammed him down into a flat sled there.
Yeah.
And since I'm the creator, this is my worst manual on the track.
Oh, I saw one wobble.
Yeah, so I was trying to figure out how to use these new tools and trying to remember how I did manuals. So, here's something I can tell you if you want to make good manuals. You want to stick with acceleration lines going in one direction or the other. You generally don't want to swap directions unless you're doing like no rotation or something, but that's something completely different there. So
Yeah.
you can see that I have acceleration lines just flipping here. Oh yeah, this part, I actually did this whole manual and then my power went out.
Oh.
So I had to redo this manual. I think
dude.
That's why I didn't do a good job on it. So it is a little wobbly, but it goes by so quick that luckily it's not really noticeable.
Your power went out. What, were you hit by that hurricane?
No, actually, I'm in the I'm on the East Coast.
That's your little
Yeah,
north of it,
I'm
yeah.
like 15 minutes from the ocean. Actually, it's pretty cool.
Nice.
And then I was like, I can finally do these frame-based tumbles here. That's something I've been wanting to do.
Yeah. That was a really nice transition, by the way. Like, if you go back a little to that curve, like the way you do it, but you'd sync it to the camera
You
movement.
mean to the nose manual to the tail manual?
Yeah, or just even just the curve in general, even the nose manual in general, like the way it's like kind of fluidly, like kind of rotates over. Like you rotate like around the camera in a way that makes it look so smooth and like clean.
Yeah. One of the things I do too is I feel like I should make a manual tutorial, or at least
Yeah.
like on how I make manuals, because I value rotation over pressure. Rotation is the most important thing in a manual. So you want to get as much pressure as you can, but up until the point where you're not sacrificing how fluidly he rotates. So I basically use the line and the acceleration to on every frame to make sure that he rotates like with the curve, just the correct amount, and that he never rotates back and forth like he did on the other one.
Yeah,
so
it's like perfect.
So the result is that it just ends up looking smooth. Like
Yeah.
It just goes around the camera. It just kind of happens naturally.
Yeah, it looks so nice. It's like just aesthetically pleasing. And that little hop, I love that as well, just when the pressure kind of stops.
Yeah, and that's the multipliers. That's the one thing I loved about the multipliers is you can now strengthen lines that are completely flat.
Yeah.
So then here you're basically just I'm locking his rotation so that he doesn't move perceivably that much at all until I want him to the beat.
Oh yeah.
This didn't look as cool as I was hoping, but
yeah, the kind of animated pinch.
It just kind of animated into a pinch. I don't know if pinches are still frowned upon, but I've always made pinches in my tracks, and people are like, "You just killed the flow." But at least I think here, like it's high speed, so it's okay.
Yeah, this has a really nice transition as well. Like I kept rewatching this because the first few times it happened so fast. I kind of wondered if you'd like flipped something, and I realized there's just no rotation, so it's just like flick flick. It's just like
yeah,
kind of blew my mind.
On Mountain, I was making sure that I connected everything. I wanted it to be one continuous line. But on this track, I was just kind of trying to see what I could do. This first high speed section was definitely more experimental. And this was the point where I went, oh yeah, I watched Mountain and I went, oh yeah, I could do no rotation. Let me try that. So this is the part where you can have the lines flip, because when you're doing this, you have to completely, rotation is priority, followed by pressure. It got a little bit uneven with the pressure at the end. But
yeah, it's super hard though.
notice
Like
that.
when you get like that extreme.
Because he was getting to the point where he was almost flat slide.
Yeah.
And usually when I'm rotating him, I rotate him around the shoulder. So luckily, it didn't last much longer. And then I just had a couple more manuals here.
This was a really lovely section as well.
And I wanted to do more of this dotted stuff. Like, if you're going fast enough, you could totally make XY manuals now. So that's another concept I would like to explore.
Yeah.
This part I was super proud of when I got it. Like just the slowdown here and like the way it snaps into this tail manual.
Yeah, it's nice.
I honestly, that's one of my favorite parts, like of the track itself.
But this section kind of reminded me of the original mounts a little bit.
Yeah, this section is what I had in mind for Mountain when I was like going to have another minute of high speed, and then I was going to slow him down and do a slow manual section to kind of, because like Quirk Omni tracks have multiple sections to them, like that explore different styles of Quirk. So what I wanted to try to do here was explore different styles of manuals. So yeah, then that's all synced to the music.
Yeah.
And this loop here, I had to throw in a loop. That's just,
loops are essential. One of the things I kind of enjoyed about the way you synced this track was that you didn't kind of become the slave of the music. You kind of interacted with it, like you kind of played with it. A lot of tracks we see nowadays, we're almost getting to this stage where we become, should I say, like too dependent on the music, where like the music dictates everything. And like here, like you kind of match the style of the music, and then there would be like you would sync up to moments of it, but like you didn't kind of let it rule you. So the track felt like way more natural, maybe kind of more of a look back towards flow that used to be like so much more important back in the day.
Thank you. Yeah, I basically just like I said, I used the song to just kind of give me a cue when to do a new trick, but I didn't really like try to sync to every element of the song and like just make all of his movements dictated by what was going on in the music. It might help because it's mostly just a loop. This part, I had to try. Okay, so when I got
this part, it looks so
good. This turned out really nice. So this part, as soon as I got here, because I already had the animation planned, I was like, okay, this section, I need to get him going as fast as I possibly can. I only have like 30 seconds to get him up to animation speed. So I was kind of limited in what tricks I could do here. I had to make sure that I was only doing like this one. Still like that one. I had to make sure that I was doing manual tricks that would actually speed him up.
Oh yeah.
Because some manual tricks, like if you overbalance a nose manual, here I underbalanced it. If you overbalance it, it'll slow him down. But here I underbalanced it just so I could get that speed boost.
Yeah.
And I switched to syncing to the saxophone here.
Oh yeah.
Basically, I just so the lines appear and disappear with the saxophone is what I was going for. And then just the general movement. So this part is mostly green, which I also know would have been frowned upon back in the day. But it worked. All right, I think we're coming up on everyone's favorite part. So yeah, I don't know if you remember, but in my I don't know if the Mountain track review or the behind the lines, but I was talking about how I wanted to see more animation that interacted with Bosch. So I
Yep.
already had that little test animation of the triangle earlier in the track, and I was like, okay. I came up with a concept. What if like a hand comes in and starts like messing with him? And so I only drew one frame. Like I said, I'm not an animator, so it probably took me an hour to draw this frame.
It was an hour well spent.
Yeah. What's helpful is, unlike in like photo editing tools, it is composed of line segments, so I could constantly adjust the proportions. So I actually found it easier to draw this in Line Writer than I would have in like some art program, just because of the style. But yeah, so I only drew one keyframe, and if you wanted to do real deal animation, I assume you would redraw the frames. But I was like, I'm wanting to get this out quickly, so I'm just gonna copy and paste the frame and move it, and I think it worked out nicely anyway.
Yeah, you could say that.
One thing I made sure of is whenever the hand was stationary, I still had to move it a little bit. Like I couldn't put it in the exact same spot because it ended up looking weird. So
Yeah.
I would have to like move it around slightly, give it a little jitter to make it look like it's moving, because otherwise it just completely stopped. And then I made the pen so that you can.
Oh yeah.
I just replace it with a track line in the frames that matter. So then I had this up, up, down, hold, up pattern that I don't know where that came from, but this I couldn't get away with. I had to use 2 frames here.
Yeah.
I didn't. I'm still learning about the iterations and stuff. I don't know if that would have helped, but I couldn't get a fast enough rotation, because that's one thing. All these had to be timed so that he was in the correct spot on the next hit. Like here, he had to be in this position so that I could hit his tail. And then here, I wanted to go the other way, and it just, because he's falling down, it just kind of was hard to get to work.
Yeah, I bet.
And then this part, this is basically a nose manual.
That's so cool.
Okay, and now this, I'm going to show you. So I would love to explain how I did this. So I actually have a track I made like really quickly, a simple manual track in another file. This will save, right? I think the time. Like I'll be able to skip ahead, right?
Yeah. Well, it was 2:32.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so this is the track I made. So you can see he just bounces on the line and then he falls here, and then it's a flat line. So this is the template I used. So the way I did this animation at the end was, yeah, there we go. I basically, I think I have it on the side of the frame here. Yeah. There's the track.
You just
so what I did
back and pasted a little section each time.
So yeah, well, actually, I pasted the entire track on every frame, and I opened up 2 instances of LRA. I used Power Menu on one of them, and because he's going at different speeds, what I had to do was match Bosch on every frame to the version and to the other track. And I had to match his rotation too. That was probably the hardest part, was getting him to rotate at the same speed as in the other track. And then I basically positioned the track wherever it was in the camera on the other track. It was a fun process.
Jeez.
And then I came through and I erased the track. So I kind of worked backwards in order to get this effect. So I basically erased the line segments.
Yeah. This is just
and
like
I put
a whole nother level, my dude.
Like, I don't know if I can top this idea.
It's
honestly.
like even the explanation is like blowing my mind. Like the amount of time that must have taken to do.
It took me 2 days to do this final animation.
Yeah.
Which was, but again, that's 2 days where I just woke up, did this, went to bed. But yeah, but I still had a lot of fun with it. Amazingly, I almost didn't run into any issues with this, because when I first did this, I was shocked at how much it looked like he was really riding a track.
Yeah.
because he's going downwards and like the frame's moving, you can just apply light pressure to him to get like that real riding a manual effect.
It's crazy.
Timing all of this was the most time consuming part, honestly, like getting all these things to. And then this part.
Yeah, that's so. I love that bit.
Yeah, you can see that is just a track line for his fingers. This was the one complication I ran into. This track line here, you can see it kind of comes through. And that's because I was editing this afterwards. Like this was connected. And then I came, like one of the last things I did was I came back and I got rid of this part. But when you separate a line, even if you keep the angle the same, I guess it can still affect him. So he was like dying on the track. So I was having to find the perfect pixel in order to get him to work. And that was the most annoying part because that was just trial and error.
Yeah, it's pretty tricky.
So some of the frames aren't perfect, but again, you won't notice unless you're really paying attention.
Yeah.
And then I was also amazed that this nose flick worked.
Yeah, how on earth does that even?
I think because it's basically a fake track in a like being animated on frames. That's kind of how the original physics of the game works. Is it has a track on each frame. So when he falls over, there's just one frame that the gravity well pulls him.
Oh my god!
And it just flicks him. And yeah, so animating the hand drawing these curves was actually very easy because of the snap. Like I could basically just snap the tip of the pen to each line segment and then have it draw. and then I did some math and I calculated when to leave the frame. So just line segments. I mean, I'm iPi. I got to use math at some point. And then I kind of honestly ran out of ideas here, so I was like, we're almost 3 minutes in, so I just decided to have the line slow him down. And then I drew in this text, and that took a lot of work.
Man, I'm so flawed.
That's about it, I think.
Just
have more questions.
So when are you next gonna blow my mind? Jesus, like I don't think I've ever been like this flawed by a track ever.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I don't know if I'm gonna floor anyone with a track like this. Like I said, I've had this idea for years.
Yeah.
A track with this structure, ending it with an animation that like interacts with him. So this was like really a passion project. That's how I was able to get it done so quickly. I just had all the ideas in my head. And
you just had it within you. You just needed to let it all out, kind of thing.
Exactly. So now I have like a couple of other tracks, but I'm kind of just freestyling. I don't have any like concrete plans for them. They might not have animation. I think I'm just going to explore more of the manual technique now that you can do with live editing.
Yeah. Like there's a whole lot more you can do with the manuals now with the multi-lining. Like you can do that weird kind of vibrating manual that I found out.
Yeah. I haven't found a good spot to try that yet, but I'd like to.
Yeah, I'm sure there's more that could be done with that concept, honestly. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure what else to ask because like I'm just kind of in shock. Like even just the explanation of this is just like holy shit.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad I was able to. I think one of the things is a lot of the things I did in the past I didn't have any explanation for, so people just assumed I was cheating.
Oh really?
Yeah, like I did a lot of like my curves and stuff. I know there's circle generators, but I still trace my curves using Power Menu and tracing a circle because it gives me control over the line length. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't know. It's not like as much of a game of like who's the best line rider skill curve maker. You know, like if I think if you have to like trace something to make a curve, that's totally acceptable.
Oh yeah, I mean
It's
nowadays,
more about.
yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, I mean
I don't know.
nowadays
I just try to have fun with it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, as far as curves go, I mean, I just keep on hand a file that has a lot of curves, so I can just copy and paste them. And then if you take a really large one, for instance, you can then shrink it down using the new tools, so it's like
Hmm.
unbelievably smooth. Has like 1,000
Yeah.
lines in it or something. But yeah, this is insane. I mean, I think I've run out of questions. My ability to interview has been uh, kind of catastrophically destroyed at this stage.
Well, I think I've pretty much answered everything I wanted to talk about this track. So
Yeah, awesome. I'm sure you guys watching this are going to enjoy this episode. I mean, this is just something else, really. So, yeah, thanks for agreeing to be on again, third time in a row.
all right, thank you for having me again.
Awesome. Yeah, and anyone watching this, leave some love. I mean, I can't even understand why you dislike this, but if you do, then feel free to voice your opinion. All
I'd
right.
love to hear it.
All right. We'll see you next time. Thanks again.